Good evening, everyone.
Good, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Ruchi ma'am.
Hi, Pooja. Hello. Very good evening to you.
How are you?
I'm fine, Pooja. Looking forward to the session.
Definitely. Same here, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for some more to join us. A very warm welcome to all of you for the session today. Let's wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start with Ruchi ma'am. Thank you.
I think somebody has their hand raised, I guess. You want to take that, Pooja? Oh, she's put down the hand.
That must be by mistake. Okay, so let us start. A very good evening once again, everybody. Everyone here, a very good evening. A warm welcome to all of you for today's webinar on competency-based questions in ELT. We are so delighted to have you all join with us for this insightful session today with our very beloved Ms. Ruchi Sengar. And before I go ahead, I would request all of you to start your cameras, please, so that we can have a wonderful interactive session today. Lovely. Thank you, Geeta ma'am. Thank you, Abhishek sir. Thank you, Vikram sir. Thank you so much, teachers. Really appreciate it. All right. So let me quickly introduce myself and Edward and Ms. Ruchi Sengar for today's session. I am Pooja Vashiest, Academic Excellence Manager at Edward Publishing Company. Edward is an ELT specialist publisher and it's a part of ABP Education. It works closely with schools across India to other curriculums, and it offers other resources that help you with your professional development, all aligned with NEP 2020 and the latest NCF, National Curriculum Framework. We are very pleased to have Ms. Ruchi Sengar with us today. She is a CBSE subject expert, master trainer in ELT, NCERT textbook author, CELTA certified professional, and an experienced mentor in competency-based education. Thank you so much, Ruchi ma'am, for joining us today, for taking out your precious time for this session with us.
Pleasure.
Teachers, we are very confident that the session will provide valuable insights to all of you into competency-based assessment in English language teaching. So I would happily, proudly over this to Ms. Ruchi Sengar, ma'am, and we all are looking forward to this wonderful session today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking some time out for learning together. A true teacher never misses out on opportunities to learn. So my greatest admiration to all of you. I'm going to try and make these 55 minutes worth your time. And even if you take back 1% of what I'll be dealing with today, consider yourself worthy of a pat on the back. So let's begin. Let me share my screen. Here we go. And this is it. Pooja, please let me know if this is visible.
Sure, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. So we are going to be doing competency-based questions in ELT. We will begin with a short discussion, a brief discussion actually, on NCFSE and competencies. So what is competency-based education? There are quite a few parameters. Let me show you some. So it is an approach to teaching and learning that focuses on the mastery of specific skills and knowledge. It aims to shift the emphasis from rote memorization to examination-based assessments. This is something that has been drilled in all of us over the past few years. It promotes a learner-centered approach, means the pedagogy changes in the classroom. It targets providing a more personalized and flexible education, again, pedagogy-oriented, assessment-oriented, and it centers on identifying and developing core competencies that are essential for students' future success, also known as the 21st century skills, and much more, right? So in today's session, what we are going to be focusing on is essentially this one, aims to shift the emphasis from rote memorization and examination-based assessment. So what are those kind of questions that you can create to fulfill competencies? In that sense, we are going to look at the competencies, and we will also look at Bloom's taxonomy to help us make the questions. Since this is specific to ELT, we will also be looking at something called text structures. Okay. So what is a competency? Now, this is a bird that has been flying very high in the skies for quite a while now. So what is a competency? A competency, would someone like to tell me what a competency is? You can write it in the chat box. You can unmute and answer anything. Would someone like to? Nobody is looking for a definition. I mean, what is your basic guess? Anyone? What is a competency? Is it a ability? Is it a skill? Is it something that is pedagogy oriented? What is it? I mean, if someone is writing in the chat box, let me know, Pooja.
Yes, ma'am. So, Renu ma'am has written a skill.
Wonderful, wonderful, Renu. Good for you.
Learning. Yes.
Learning. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Very nice. Thank you, both of you. Let me just show you what it means. It's defined as an integrated ability. So there is not one thing in it. Okay. There is learner's knowledge. There is skill. So big tick mark for you. There is attitudes and there are values. When all these work together to perform a task, it is called a competency. Now, in a summative examination, when you want to test a competency, you really cannot go in for skills, attitude, and values in a written exam like that, not very clearly. So, because these are done in formative assessment, so you basically go with the knowledge part. Okay, you get to see how deep the child's learning is. All right. So, in that sense, the question making comes into play. But for your information, when you talk to anybody, henceforth, you can say that it's an integration of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values that work together to perform a task. So for example, if the competency says reads with comprehension, interprets text appropriate to level, and responds to questions, you would see that it has a skill, which is reading. It has knowledge plus skill, which is understanding the meaning. And it has application plus attitude, which is responding appropriately. So it has all these things, which is why it's a competency. All right. Now, you can write in the chat box which one is a skill and which one is a competency. Is A a competency or a skill? Is B a competency or a skill? So which one is a competency? Just write that one, A or B. Which one is a competency? Okay. Anyone? Pooja? What answer do we get?
Yes, Ruchi ma'am, we are getting B.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
Excellent.
Good
So
job.
students can read a short passage, understand its meaning, answer questions about the main idea and details is a competency because it has a lot of things. The first one, can read aloud a passage fluently with correct pronunciation. That is just a skill. It doesn't have other things like attitudes or knowledge, etc. included in it. All right. So definitely very good. Thank you for answering that. Now I'm going to show you a sample from the NCFSE, which will tell you where the competencies are listed and what they stand for, basically. So let's look at this. So is this visible? Yes? Good. Okay. Now, if you look at this, you have documents from preparatory stage, you have one for middle stage, you have one for secondary stage, you also have for the foundational stage, which I'm not showcasing here. So now let's look at the document for middle stage. They are all the same, but the content is different. Okay. So this side, if you look at this side, the left side, okay, they are something called CGs. So what are CGs? Curricular goals. What are they? Curricular goals. Okay. And for each CG, you have competencies, right? For each CG, you have competencies. And these competencies could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or they could simply be 3. So each curricular goal has competencies. For example, let us look at this one. CG1 develops the capacity for effective communication using language skills for description, analysis, and response. No identification anywhere, no remembering. It's analysis, response, description, so many things. And let us look at competency related to it, which says 1.4. Writes different kinds of letters, essays, and reports using appropriate style and registers for different audiences and purposes. What is register? The tone that we use. Formal, informal, semi-formal, casual, whatever we want to use. Okay. So now if this is the competency, how do we know, since this is the middle stage, right? Which classes are there in the middle stage? 6, 7, and 8. Yes, you're very right. So how do we get to know what part of this C1.4 is to be done in 6th, is to be done in 7th, it's to be done in 8th? We have no way of knowing right now. We just know that by the time the child finishes class 8, all these competencies should be fulfilled, because competencies are given for a stage. They are not given for a class. Okay. So what is it that is going to tell us that what we are supposed to do in each class? Any ideas? I'm going to give you about 12 seconds to type it in the chat box. What will tell us? Okay, so in the meantime, let's get back to the PPT. Think about it. What is going to tell us? Okay, where we are going to do letters, where we are going to do reports, in which class are we going to do essays? How do we get to know? I hope you are noticing that in classes 6, 7, 8, there are essays that have been included. So if you're not doing it in your school, that means you're not following if you're not doing reports, if you're not doing letters in 6, 7, and 8 and essays, that means you're not following the NCF. That means the book that you have probably isn't appropriate. The books we write at Headward are mapped to the NCFSC, right? I'm the author of English Spring. So if you were to pick up a copy of English Spring, you would see all these things included in it, right?
Ruchi
Okay.
ma'am, we have a hand raised, yes. Vimla ma'am,
Yes.
would you like to share an answer? Do you want to say something? Vimla Nadan ma'am? Okay. Anybody else? Teachers, do you want to answer? You can please unmute and answer.
I'll repeat my question. How do we get to know in which class we have to do X, Y, or Z? In the competency, all three are given together. That means by 8th class, all three should finish. But what will tell us in which class we are going to do what? Any idea? Anyone? Okay. So look at this before I give you the answer. Look at this. Okay. Look at these three competencies.
Renu ma'am says writing section.
Okay. Okay. That's one way of thinking. I'll explain. Not entirely correct, but I appreciate your initiative of answering. Thank you. Okay. Reads short text with comprehension, answers simple factual questions. Which class? 3 to 5. Reads and comprehends texts of increasing complexity, identifies main ideas, interprets characters, motives, and draws simple inferences. Which classes? 6 to 8. And then in 9 to 12, critically analyzes, evaluates arguments, identifies perspectives, connects ideas across the text. You see, for each stage, the level of complexity is increasing. So that is one thing you have to remember, that when the competencies are given for each stage, they are specific to that stage. Don't read the secondary stage competency and apply it to the middle stage. Or don't read the preparatory stage and say, oh, okay, this much only is required to be done in middle stage. We have to remember that. Okay. Now, this was what I asked you. How do we get to know how do you decide? You teach letters. How do you decide in which class the letters? Is it the syllabus? Is it the textbook? Is it your school that decides for you? Or is there some other way? What is that standard way? Any answer? Because I'll be very interested to know. What is it that tells you कि नहीं भाई हमें तो ये पढ़ाना है इस क्लास में और इस क्लास में ये पढ़ाना है, हम रिपोर्ट क्लास 6 में नहीं पढ़ाएंगे? Who takes that decision? What makes you take that decision? Write in the chat box, answer if you want to. Okay, look at this. The magic thing that tells us are LOs, learning outcomes. These are published by the NCERT. So when you visit the NCERT site, you will see the learning outcomes. For example, for this one, for class 6, look at the middle one. For class 6, it says, writes short, informal and formal letters, application of leave, on familiar topics using appropriate language. So this is supposed to be done in class 6. Then in class 7, writes informal letters, short formal letters, short reports on given topics, and immediate awareness using appropriate language and structure. So now from letters, you have come to more formal letters and short reports. This is in class 7. Where are we getting to know all this? All this class-wise division is being given to us by the LOs. Okay. And then when you look at grade 8, writes detailed and organized formal and informal letters. From short, we have come to detailed essays and reports using language and style that reflect an understanding of audience expectations. So the magic thing that tells us which topic to do in which class are the LOs. And these LOs are standardized for the whole country because they are published by the NCERT, irrespective of the board you belong to. Okay, right? Now that much is done. I hope you've understood that much for competencies. So what tells us what to test? Competencies. What tells us how deep to test? That is Bloom's taxonomy. So from recall, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate to create. Because when we are creating questions, we are obviously going to look at the level, cognitive level of these questions. Okay. Let's begin with Bloom's. All of you are familiar with something called Bloom's taxonomy. Yes or a no, could you write on in the chat box? Bloom's taxonomy, that pyramid that takes you up from understanding, from remembering, understanding, applying.
We are getting a yes, ma'am.
Yes, from most people. Wonderful. Yes. Okay. Now, before we go on to creating Bloom's taxonomy questions, let us first look at text structures. All of you are dealing with English as a subject in your classroom. I'd like you to focus on this. Similarity and dissimilarity, summarizing, identifying main idea, sequencing, predicting, cause and effect, fact and opinion, inferring, and point of view. These are 9 text structures. Now imagine if you create one question on each text structure, you'll be creating different questions. Each question checking different aspects of what story or chapter that you might have taught or poem you might have taught, right? Now I'm going to show you examples. All examples that I show you today are going to be related to a story called The Hare and the Tortoise. The reason why I'm taking that as an example is because everybody knows that story. Don't think that we are taking that story so the questions are going to be for babies. No. Class 12 question can also be created from Hare and the Tortoise. A class 8 question can be created. A class 3 question also can be created. So it depends what level of question you are creating. So I'll show you the examples. So when we say similarity and dissimilarity, summarizing, identifying main idea, sequencing, predicting, all these can be done at the primary stage, especially 3, 4, and 5. Okay. When you come to cause and effect and fact and opinion and inferring, you will be talking about the middle stage, and point of view, class 8 upwards. Probably you can start exposing to. Some schools expose students to point of view even from class 5, class 4. It depends what their point of view is. It makes them think. But they will not give point of view in the exam. But for classroom discussion, it's a good thing. Now for each of these text structures, I'm going to show you the examples so that you understand what I mean by these text structures. Let us begin. For similarity and dissimilarity, how are the hare and tortoise alike and different in their approach to the race? Ho gaya? Similarity, dissimilarity ka question, but it's a good question. You look at the complexity of the question, it will make the child think. Okay? Summarizing. Write a short summary of the story in 3-4 sentences, highlighting the key events and the moral. I shouldn't be using the word moral here. I think best to use the word lesson or message. Okay. Identifying main idea. What is the main idea or message of the hare and the tortoise? Sometimes teachers also say, if there is no title given, they would say, what would be the most suitable title for this story or this paragraph? When you ask that, you are basically asking the child to think of the main idea only. So that is where it stems from. Let's look at more sequencing. Very favorite questions, especially for primary students, even for middle school. Arrange the following events in correct order. Right? So this is a sequencing question. Predicting question, now you are teaching a particular chapter, half of it you've taught one day, half of it you have to teach another day. So when you come the next day for the class, you will immediately ask them a predicting question and you would say, this much we had studied, this is what had happened in the story, what do you think is going to happen next? Okay. Otherwise, generally, if you have to ask, you can ask from the story. What do you think would have happened if the hare had not fallen asleep during the race? So they are predicting, right? Cause and effect. Either you give the cause and ask the effect, or you give the effect and ask the cause. Either which way. So the question would be something like, why did the hare lose the race even though he was much faster than the tortoise? Why did the hare lose the race even though he was much faster than the tortoise? So what are we asking for? We are asking for the cause, because the effect of the hare having lost the race is given here already, right? So cause and effect, we are left with some more. Fact and opinion, inferring, and point of view. Okay, look at fact and opinion. Which of the following is a fact and which is an opinion? The hare ran very fast. Let's consider that number A. And B, the tortoise is wiser than the hare. So which one is an opinion? Just tell me that. A or B? Write in the chat box. Is A an opinion or is B an opinion? Let us see what you all say. Think about it quickly.
People say it's B.
Wonderful. Excellent. Excellent. If you're saying it's B, excellent. Now imagine the children having to think like this. You know, if it is given in the text, children think that is a fact. They don't realize that facts are universally acceptable. Just because it's written in the book doesn't mean it's a fact. A fact has to be universally acceptable. And then you have inferring. What is inferring? I will explain in detail later. Inferring is deduction. To be able to deduce, to be able to make out, to be able to figure it out from what is given in the text. Okay, for example, what can you infer about the tortoise's personality from his actions during the race? What do we get to know? That he was this, he was that. How do we get to know? It's not explicitly given in the text, but you will be able to figure it out. Acha, he did this, that means he is like this. Oh, he was careful about this, that means his character trait is this. All that is called inferring. Now we look at point of view. Point of view over here would be if the story were told from a hare's point of view. Now look at the question. This question is certainly not for classes 3, 4, 5. I mean, if you want, you can push it in class 5. Orally, you can ask in class 4, but otherwise it will be for middle stage. Okay. If the story were told from the hare's point of view, how might the tone or message of the story change? Right? It is very important to start exposing kids to these kind of questions. So my one hint to you is start using text structures. Okay? Keep in mind the text structures when you make the question. The next thing that you have to keep in mind is the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay? And by the time we end Bloom's taxonomy and I'll show you some examples, I think it will be time for us to wind up. So let us proceed with Bloom's taxonomy. Okay? Everybody is aware of this. Please have a look at this. This was older. This is the new version. If you notice, they were all nouns here and they are all verbs here because learning is action-oriented now. It is not just a passive intake, right? So we go with remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. Everybody knows that there are some verbs that are available that help you create the questions, etc. That's all very fine. But do we actually know how understanding is different from analyze, or how evaluate is different from apply? Are we very clear? There is a simple way that I will show it to you, and I'm hoping that you will always remember once you go through that. Okay, let's look at this. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. So you have an infer in analyze also. You have an infer in understand also. Okay, this is not so important right now. Focus on this one. What do you see here? We see a cycle. So now I'm going to explain Bloom's to you with the help of a cycle. So we see a cycle. Now imagine you've never seen a cycle before. The first time it comes to you, you start touching it, and then what are you going to ask? Anyone? What is the first thing that you will ask if you know you touch the you touch this portion? What will you ask? You touch this portion, what will you ask? You touch this portion, what will you ask? What is your question going to be?
Someone says, what is this?
Exactly. Superb. So the first thing you want to know is, what is it called? So look at it this way. You want to remember the facts of the bicycle. So what is the lowest level in Bloom? Remembering. Just the names. Please tell me the names. I will remember the names. I will remember the names. It's rote memorization for me, and I will never forget the names. I'll remember the names. So now that is done. Now that you've figured out the names, what is it that you want to know about all these things? The pedal, the seat, the handlebars, the wheels, the, you know, what is it called? The bell. What is it that you want to know? What do you want to know about them? Any idea?
How it is used.
Superb, superb.
Wow. Kavita ma'am said yes.
Superb. Mwah. Awesome. Wonderful. So here you go. Once we remember the parts, we move on to understanding them. So what is the next level? The next level is understand. So what do? We want to know the function of each part. So the moment we start saying, explain so and so, that level becomes understanding. In a question, whenever we say, explain so and so, we don't say, if we say identify so and so, or we ask a question, the answer is exactly there in the text, that is remembering. But the moment we say explain so and so, etc., that becomes understanding. Okay. Now that we figured all this out, abhi naam aa gaya, abhi uska function aa gaya, what is it that you want to do now?
Someone says we want to know the experience.
The experience, you've jumped a step. How will you have the experience? Yeah. First, what do you have to do? First, what do you have to do?
Renu ma'am says materials, how to ride.
Exactly. So now what do you have to do? You have to now ride the bike. अब आपको नाम पता चल गए, अब आपको काम पता चल गए, अब आप कहते हो अच्छा चलो हम ट्राई मारते हैं, हम चलाते हैं. So you are going to apply your knowledge. आपने जो remember किया, जो understand किया, अब आप apply करोगे. So you are going to ride the bike. You can also practice balancing, steering, till you properly learn how to ride. So all this is application. Okay, so far so good. Are we clear so far? Write a yes or a no in the chat box. Pooja will tell me quickly. So far we are going fine. We figured it out.
Yes, we are getting yes. Lot of yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Now comes the next part. Now we've learned to apply. Now the cycle is there with us again. And you know, this is a story I tell in every workshop that I do, every workshop. And this time I'll tell it to you in the webinar also, that when we were kids, my brother had this habit of taking a screwdriver and opening up the radio or opening up the table fan or whatever, and look at each part and say, oh, this is how that motor works. Oh, this is how the blades move in the fan. Oh, this is, the spring is there under the button. Oh, that's why. So when somebody breaks open a concept, okay, and examines each thing separately in it, it is called analysis. So therefore, the next step is, अब हमें चलानी आ गई, now we want to analyze it. So we could take apart the bicycle to examine how the parts fit together. आप स्टीयरिंग बार, आप हैंडल बार की जगह पेडल नहीं लगा सकते. हैंडल बार में ब्रेक्स लगी हुई हैं साथ में. There are brakes there. That is why it works the way it works. And the pedals will go next to the where you will place your feet only. So what is it? What is this system that is putting everything together? When you examine in detail, when you deep dive, that is called analysis. Now, after you finished analyzing, now you want to, supposing you want to go take your bike to the hills, okay, and you want to have a nice time there. You are camping with your friends and the school people, or maybe with family, etc., and you want to take your cycle along. So what is the first thing you will do? You will say, oh, let me see if my bicycle and a sports bicycle and a mountain bike, what are the things that are better to ride it in the hills? Oh, this has this. Oh, this has gears. Oh, this has broader tires. Which one will be more suitable? So when you're doing this weighing and judging, that is when you are doing evaluating. That is called evaluating. When you want to go on a trip or a holiday, you will look at different packages, etc., and then you will decide, right? All that is called evaluation. Okay? And the last thing is that now you want to use the bicycle to create something new. Like in Three Idiots, when the people reached Ladakh over there to, what was his name, Phunsukh Wangdu's farm, they saw children shearing the sheep with the power of the bike, okay, bicycle. So that was creation. You're using the same bicycle for a new purpose. So that is why creation is at the highest level. It's at the highest level in the Bloom's taxonomy. That's why scientists are so respected, because they invent, they create. That is why in our English paper, the writing section and the long answer section are considered extremely important, because they are all creation level. The child creates those answers, right? Okay. Now that this is clear, look at this. What is this object called? How does it work? If the chain broke, how would you fix it? Look at the different levels. Right? This is how the complexity of a question increases when you go across the pyramid of Bloom's. All right. Now, very quickly, we are going to go through remembering में क्या क्या आता है, understanding में क्या क्या आता है, with some examples. Okay. Here we go. Remembering means identifying and recalling. Remembering means identify. या तो आप जाओ chapter के अंदर and you pick up a particular part or a line, etc., and you identify it. Recall is, what is it that I told you 10 minutes back? Or what did I tell you yesterday? Do you remember? That is recalling. So identifying and recalling. Look at the examples. Where did the hare decide to rest during the race? So the answer is right there in the textbook. What mistake did the hare make that cost him the race? We did this yesterday. Do you remember that today or not? Okay. So basic remembering. Okay. Then you go to understanding. Now understanding, there are 4 things that I will show you in understanding. First, I'll show you 2, then I'll show you 2 more. This is for you to remember. क्या-क्या चीजें हैं? What are the things that are included in understanding? Okay. So you have summarizing, you have comparing, you have summarizing, you have comparing. Look at the examples. summarize the events हो गया, compare the hare's behavior before and after the race. Okay, a little above remembering. Okay, because you have asked them to compare now. So it is not just remembering. Okay, if you just ask what was the hare's behavior before, what was the hare's behavior after, that would become remembering. But now it has become understanding, because comparison and summarizing are a part of understanding. Another two parts of understanding are interpreting and inferring. Interpreting and inferring. Now, interpreting has three parts. बहुत simple है. Classify, clarify, exemplify. जहां पे भी इस तरह के questions आएंगे, you would know that this is interpreting, which means this is a second level, which means it is understanding. For example, clarify, देखिए, you look again, explain type of questions are clarifying questions. Okay, classify, clarify, exemplify, and inferring, जैसे मैंने आपको text structures में I had told you, inferring is about deducing. Let me show you the examples. Okay, classify. Classify the hare and tortoise as examples of overconfidence and persistence. Give reasons. So which one would you categorize? Classify means categorize. Categorize as supposing you give them a box of positive and negative character traits, and you give them a table and you say, please classify the positive and the negative character traits. So वो classify करेंगे, positive में positive traits डालेंगे, negative में negative traits डालेंगे. That is a classifying question. So when you categorize, okay, clarify. What is clarify? Explain type of questions, right? Explain why the animals cheered, etc., etc. The question really doesn't matter here. This you have to remember. Whenever you ask these kind of questions, it becomes clarify. And exemplify, you explain a concept with an example, or you give an example and tell them to identify the concept. For example, present an incident from the race that proves the tortoise was determined. What was the incident? He did not stop, he continued to move on, right? Now, we move on. And inference को थोड़ा सा और better समझते हैं. For example, Vani tries a new fruit and makes a disgusted face. What can her mother infer? Mother को क्या पता चलता है? Write in the chat box. Vani tries a new fruit and makes a disgusted face. What can her mother infer about Vani? क्या पता चला उनको? What was the matter with the fruit? Write in the chat box. She makes a disgusted face. What does that mean? Did she like the fruit, or did she didn't like the fruit? Any answers? Did she like the fruit? She didn't like the fruit? So
yes, there are a lot of answers which says she didn't like the fruit.
Okay.
Somebody saying maybe the taste was not good.
Wonderful. Yes, so maybe the taste was not good. Maybe it was rotten. Maybe it was bitter. Maybe it was sour. She didn't like it. Now, how did you get to know? How did you get to know that she didn't like it? It's not written here. How did you get to know it? The fruit must have been bad. Because of the clue that is disgusted face.
Teachers have written facial expression.
Yes, excellent. Very good. Very good. So through the facial expression, the word disgusted face is giving you the clue. From this clue, you have connected that this could be the reason. So this is called inference, where like a detective, you look at clues and you figure out the actual culprit, or to say that you have figured out who is responsible or what is the answer. Let's try another one. Ravi slammed his notebook shut and stared at the clock, tapping his pencil rapidly. What can you infer about Ravi? Was he calm or was he impatient? Just tell me that much. Was he calm or was he impatient?
We are getting the answers. Impatient.
Impatient. Which clue tells you that he is impatient? Tapping his pencil rapidly. Tapping his pencil rapidly. Had he been chewing his pencil, what would we get to know about him? Probably he is nervous, right? So these are the clues that lead you to creating better, answers to questions. So when you create inference questions, the child really has to think, the child has to observe, child has to pick out the clues. Okay, look at this one. When Neha saw her exam results, her eyes widened and she covered her mouth in surprise before smiling. What can you infer about Neha's results? Good results or bad results? Right, that much only for me. Good results, good results. Good results or bad results?
Yes, a lot of answers. Good results.
Good results. Wonderful. And how do we get to know? She covered her mouth in surprise before smiling. She covered her mouth. If only that much, then we wouldn't have known. She covered her mouth and frowned. She covered her mouth and burst into tears. That would be something else about the result. So inferring is looking at the clues and making deductions. So before teaching a chapter, if you want to take out some sentences from the story and write on the board and ask them to guess, ask them to look at the clues, you are training them for inference questions. And while you're teaching, they will start looking at the content in that manner. What is a deeper intention behind that particular sentence? What does it say? So it's a good thing. That is why this is a part of understanding, not remembering. In the hare and the tortoise story, the tortoise meanwhile kept plodding on, step after step, slow but steady. Infer the meaning of the word plodding. What will they say? Walking slowly, or will they say running? They'll say walking slowly, because here it is. They can look after this, they can look at this, and they can figure out the meaning. Okay? From the hare's decision to sleep, what can you deduce about his attitude to the race? What can you deduce? What kind of a person does it, what kind of a creature does it make him if he is sleeping during the race? So mostly they will say overconfident, So yeah, so these are inferring questions. Now we come to applying. Okay? Applying means executing or implementing. Executing or implementing. Let's look at the examples. Rewrite the story in 5 short sentences, keeping the events in order. So you're simply executing. Implementing is more of an authentic, real-world related task. So you would say, imagine a student who studies a little every day versus one who studies only at the last minute. Apply the lesson of the hare and the tortoise to explain who is likely to succeed. So obviously they're going to say slow and steady wins the race. So this is an application question. You've given a real world example, authentic example, and you've asked them to apply their understanding from the text to this particular case, right? So that is application. Analyzing. I told you, breaking down each part and looking at it. So isme you have to remember that whenever you talk about a theme, whenever you talk about the message of a lesson, whenever you talk about character arc or character traits or narrative techniques like the writer's writing style or some other things, etc., the tone, etc., all that will come in analyzing. All that comes in analyzing. How did the reactions of the animals reflect different perspectives on success? Maybe there were different animals who were saying different things. How did they show different perspectives on success? Identify one turning point in the story. Why was it significant in changing the result? Analyze. Go deep into the story and then say, why was this point specifically important? So this is analyzing. This is going deep. Okay? Now, theme, character development, narrative techniques, overall message, one example each. I told you these are the things that constitute analysis questions. How does the story highlight the theme of pride versus perseverance? Now these are not class 3, 4 questions. You can ask this to class 8, 9, 7, and so on. So just because it's a baby story doesn't mean that your questions also have to be babyish. It depends who's reading the story. Who are you creating the questions for? Okay. Overall message, what broader message about success in life can be drawn from the outcome of the race? So you have questions like this. Another thing I want you to remember is in analysis, assertion reason questions are asked. When you create an assertion reason question, it is an analysis question. Some people also like to say it's an evaluative question, but I prefer to keep it at analysis. Assertion, the hare lost the race. Is it true? Yes, it's true. Reason, he forgot to run till the finishing line. Is this true? No, this is not true. So your answer is very clear. A is true, but R is false. Now try another one. Assertion, the hare slept during the race. Is it true? Yes. Reason, the hare underestimated the tortoise's perseverance. Is this true? Yes, it is true. Now you need to tell your kids, अगर both assertion और reasoning true हैं, तो बीच में because लगा के इकट्ठे sentence पढ़ो. Read the sentence together, both sentences together by inserting because. Look at this. The hare slept during the race because the hare underestimated the tortoise's perseverance. Correct. So both A and R are true and R correctly explains A. Right? This is how you have to teach your kids. पहले दोनों को true false check कराएंगे तो C और D options clear हो जाते हैं. If C and D options are not there, then you put a because. And then you check for the whole thing, right? Okay. Next one that we have are analogies. You have different types of analogies. Synonyms, antonym, cause, effect, part to whole, whole to part, item, category, item, purpose. बहुत सारे. You Google types of analogies, you will see them. So these are the kind of questions that are asked. Complete the following analogy with a word from the text. Happy is to cheerful as ahead is to, would someone like to give an answer? So why is it analyzing? Because you have to analyze the relationship between happy and cheerful. Is it synonym? Is it antonym? Is it part to whole or whole to part? What relationship is this? What relationship is this? Anyone? Happy is to cheerful. What relationship?
We have an answer forward.
Forward is correct. Very good. How did you reach forward? Because you were able to check that happy and cheerful have the same meaning.
Synonym,
yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. And so ahead will be forward. Try another one. Nib is to pen as branch is to. What is the relationship between nib is to pen?
Get the answer, ma'am. Tree.
Yes, tree. Very good. So a part to the whole. So therefore a part to the whole. What is the whole thing? A tree. That is what it is. That is analogy type of questions are also called analyzing questions. We'll skip the major inferring here. Look at evaluating. Now we come to judging. Remember what I said, which bicycle is better to take on the hills, or which hotel do I check into, which mobile phone do I buy, what are the traits here, what are the traits here, let me judge the traits, which one is better for me. That is evaluating. So words like justify or say why or why not, when you ask those type of questions, you are asking evaluating questions. Do you think the tortoise was wise in challenging the hare, or was it a reckless decision? See, balance. Give your reasons. Then you have another one. Was the hare's failure entirely his own fault? Or did the other animals' expectations influence him? Justify your answer. Again, give reasons. Okay. So was it really a test of skill, or was the race a test of attitude? It depends. So when you're doing judging, that is evaluation. And then finally, when you're creating something new, that will become creation. For example, look at this. Suppose the hare wanted to redeem himself. Design a new race where both animals have equal chances. What rules would you create? So this is not a summative exam question. This would be a formative exam question, or just for fun discussion in the classroom. Then write an alternative ending, your favorite question. A lot of teachers use this, right? But you have to, bridge it. You have to enclose it. You cannot just tell them write alternative ending. Everything will be correct. So you have to say in which the hare learns from the mistake and changes his behavior. So direct that alternative ending somewhere in one direction. Okay. Or don't ask this for a summative test. Then ask it for a formative test. Create a short dialogue between the hare and the tortoise a week after the race, showing how they feel about the outcome. Now, this can be a good summative test question. Okay. So now we have traveled the whole segment from remembering to finally we have finished doing your
Creating.
From remembering to creating. So on that note, what I want to say is that we first began with NCFSC. We talked about competency. We showed you something from curricular goals to competencies in the NCF. We also showed you how LOs are important. Then I talked about text structures, those 9 text structures. After doing those text structures, we showed examples. Then we talked about Bloom's taxonomy. We talked about the bicycle, how we can remember Bloom's taxonomy. And then we finally showed you examples as we climbed the Bloom's pyramid. So that was for competency-based questions. It's exactly 5:01. I don't like taking extra time of teachers. Your time is precious. So I'm open for questions. Pooja, hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Ruchi ma'am, for an insightful and enriching session today on competency-based questions, which is such an important topic to be discussed upon.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it is going to be very effective, very useful for our educators today.
Yes.
Dear teachers, do you have any questions you would like to ask Ruchi ma'am?
Somebody just requested showcasing the slide of text structures. I'll just do it. In the meantime, please feel free to ask a question.
Okay, we are getting a lot of thank yous, Ruchi ma'am, for you for a wonderful session, of course, without a doubt.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Okay, dear teachers, if you have any question, you can write down in the chat as well. Or if not, as Ruchi ma'am very rightly said, we do not like to take your time, any extra time, of course, after a working day, or maybe, after a Saturday at home. You all are here with us. I would like to thank all of you. We are grateful to all the participants for your active engagement. It was thoroughly throughout the session, and we are so happy to see that. I'm sure the session was effective for you. And once again, we truly appreciate Ruchi ma'am for her time and expertise and all the practical examples she has shared with us.
Yeah, we have one more announcement, Pooja, before you conclude. So sorry for interrupting you.
No problem. Yes.
The one thing is that Edward did this webinar for everybody. We just took 1 hour and we sort of tried to pack in everything in this 1 hour. However, the next sessions that we are going to take are going to be curated for a specific audience. If you're taking our books, especially if you're taking English Spring, which is my baby, then you can be very sure that I come free with the book. So you can reach out to me anytime. right? Whatever little I know, I have packed it in the book. Please make sure that you ask your head word executive to at least show you an a sample of the book. Reminding you once again, New English Spring, okay? And the next time we do it, the session is going to be creating a blueprint and creating a question paper. So that's going to be a specific session only and only for people who are users. So please take your time and ensure that you get hold of the book. Thank you. Please, Pooja.
So that's New English Spring, just to emphasize once again. And that's such a golden opportunity to avail. Like Ruchi ma'am said, she comes along
Yes.
for
Free,
a personal,
free.
of course, personal
Yes.
meet. And, we can meet Ruchi ma'am like that. Yes.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Ruchi ma'am, once again. And we again are thankful to all our participants. You participated so well today. We are so glad. And we really, we truly believe it is going to be a very effective and important session for you all. It is going to help you all in your classroom sessions. We look forward to more such enriching and academic interactions with you all in the future. And on this, I would like to wrap this up from Headword, on behalf of Headword and Ruchi ma'am, everybody. Thank you once again. And to Ruchi ma'am and everybody, have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Pooja,
yes.
Yes,
Sugandha
Vikram
ma'am
sir.
is asking something. There is a hand raised, Sugandha ma'am.
Yes,
She has a
Sugandha.
question.
Sure.
Please, ma'am.
Sugandha ma'am.
A very good evening. Thank you so much, Ruchi ma'am. All your sessions are so enlightening. It's a
Thank you.
blessing, really, that you're there in the teaching industry. Ma'am, my question is that when we are selecting a book for our students in an academic session, is it important to consider the choice in terms of classics? Like, when we look at the collection of our stories and the poems, should we focus on the choice? Like, is it important that the text must cover some classes, or is it all right to have the new genres, have the new modern writing style incorporated, or the classics are an essential? Please help me understand this.
Yeah. Sugandha, first of all, for asking such a superb question. When I showed you the NCF-SE, the one thing that the NEP NCF has been saying and promoting is Indianization. Why should our children be thinking about going for a picnic on a sunny day? We are not Brits. Sunny day for us is not interesting. For us, it has to be a pleasant morning or a cloudy day, etc. Then we go. Why should we be eating ham and lettuce sandwiches? Why should all that be, why should our kids be exposed to all of that? They can read it on the side if they want to. So it is believed that contextualization, the environment that the child is familiar with, if the child is reading a story that is familiar in context, the comprehension is better. Much better. So to answer your questions, the classics are things which they can read on the side. The classics are, the chapter or the poem is a vehicle for comprehension. You're not basically learning. If you have to read for pleasure, they can be read on the side. That's why the library periods have been increased as per the NCF. The library periods, the number of library periods have been increased. So they say that for contextualized texts, you need to keep them as far as possible Indian. And if you take the classics, it's very difficult to think of things like gender parity, environment, etc. So if you need to bring in the new modern concepts and the SDG goals, etc. Topics in it, then you need to have some modern texts, some modern writings, some Indian writings, something that is rooted in the Indian culture, different parts of the country, the diversity, etc. I hope that answers your question, Sugandha.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Again, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody
Bye-bye.
else? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Ruchi ma'am, for answering
Thank
that.
you. Bye, darling.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Sugandha ma'am, for asking. As I've written in the chat again, let's have this association with you all through our interactive books, New English Spring, and such wonderful webinars in future too. All right then. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.